You notice how I let you talk?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
So once again, we don't need a normative authority.
Daddy.
We don't need a one set of particular rules. What we need is a framework that we can get together and discuss to assess what is going to happen. We don't need a one particular person or one person's interpretation or one divine commandment to follow. We
don't need a normative authority?
No, we don't. Why would we?
How did he come to that conclusion?
I don't understand. When you have a...
You want to challenge him there. How did he come to that? About, well, he's saying we over and over again. That's all he's challenging. How's he coming to that? He's just making it up.
It just makes sense.
Yeah, it just makes sense. It's just what I feel right now.
Right.
It's the current thing.
Seems right. Seems logical. Seems reasonable. They're all inklings. That's the point. They're based on inkling.
Yeah, he said we don't need, but what he has in place is something that can be discovered if analyzed, that he's really running a script for basically a ruling class. He's gathered information from somewhere in a hierarchy and saying this is what we do and this is what we need. And when you challenge him, he might not even know that, but he's basically coming from some sort of authority, secular authority. And that's what you want to point out. That's what you want to gather from him, if he can even get there.
And if you put about 50 of him in one room, we call it City Hall or government.
Right.
That's basically how governments are formed. People come together and decide, hey, this is the best idea. This is the best way we should go.
Secular standard based on feelings.
Or laws, rather, not government, but law. Yeah.
Should actually be like a unity of body, emotion, and mind. Which is why I think I feel it always feels weird to point out when people are making appeals to emotions.
You think it's
I don't
relevant?
know what that text was. No, it's like weird. Well, yeah, because even though like they're pointing, like you're pointing it out, like in logic, it's like at that point it's just logic. I wonder. It's not necessarily like emotions can be misplaced, but also it's the side effects. I wonder when appeal of emotions are if even though we're saying like is it applicable to the situation, and I'd be looking at that.
It can be part of the situation. It can't be the standard. Like you can have an emotional mother making a case and you can say you're just appealing to emotional, and someone could be an arbiter and say, look, she's being emotional, she's had a traumatic event. That's understandable. But we want to decide if the standard she's bringing forth is just an appeal to emotion at its core, right? So we can allow for emotions within arguments, but we want to know if that's the actual standard that you're trying to use. Because if it's the standard, then anyone can have any emotions in any standard.
True, like emotional becomes the escape clause. Essentially,
yes, females do this all the time. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the escape clause, right? They use there to get out of whatever situation, and or like for example, son commits crime, mother's pleading, the good old adage, they didn't do anything, and then let my boy go, or something like that. Where even though they were caught, doing the crime, and there's evidence, hard evidence against them doing the crime, video evidence.
Yeah, they can create enough of a fuss, which is somewhat of a red herring appeal to emotion combination to distract away from the charge, perhaps getting them out of it.
Yep.
People.
Or leniency, also.
Yeah, leniency, right.
I think maybe that should ask for that, some leniency when I go to court. It's not like I don't want to not mess up for my crimes, right? I'm really familiar. I just don't want to have to go to jail. But if that's what the decides, that's what it decides. That's the shitty part.
Who decide based on your manifesto and they're interpreting it to give you prescriptions. What do you call that?
Not normative authority because
What is it?
It's not.
What is it?
It is a framework that you would get together and discuss.
No, not the framework. I'm not saying that the framework is your normative authority. Like you said, that's a framework.
Yeah,
All
and
the
that's
people,
what gives us
all
the
the
guidelines
people
for the
who
framework.
get together to decide the prescriptions based on the framework would be referred to as a normative.
No, that normative authority is a single thing, right? Not a collection of people.
Do you
getting
know what a
together and making
normative
decisions.
authority even is, Craig?
Give me your definition of it. Then.
No, Craig, I'm not going to give you your definition for normative authority. What is it?
It's a single prescription for something coming from a particular set of rules.
Look it up real quick, Craig.
Oh, tell me if
I'm
I'm
going to
wrong.
stop. I'll stop.
Right, tell me if I'm wrong.
Pull up normative authority.
Right, tell me if I'm wrong.
So normative, philosophically, right? It's like an ought claim, right? What we ought to do.
Yeah.
If you have a normative authority, what is that doing? It's an authority expressing what you should be doing. So in the church, right, we would be referring to our ecclesiastical authority as our normative authority, meaning here's our framework, here's our church framework. This is our normative authority telling us what we ought to do. Same thing with the Bible, a normative authority telling us what we ought to do. If you have a bunch of people who get together and they make prescriptions based off of this manifesto that you're supposed to follow, those would be called what?
Okay, right.
What would they be called, Craig?
I can see I'm wrong.
What would
Okay,
got it.
Okay.
So hang on.
Right,
And by the way,
just
that's the first time ever. Congratulations, Craig.
I want to be clear,
Congratulations,
right? I want to be clear, right? This is only my second debate within this field, and I might not be completely up to date on all the vernacular and everything. So if I get certain words wrong and stuff, hey, I'm going to hold my hand up.
And I'm not going to hold.
it.
I'm not going to hold that against you, dude.
Right?
So I'm not going to hold it against you. Go ahead.
The point I'm trying to make is instead of going to like a single position like the God says, right? Instead, what we do is we get together and we decide collectively based on what we feel is better to stop
Right there.
harm, okay,
Right there.
And
He's trying to
Yeah,
say, from
right,
your
yeah,
standard,
yeah.
if God says, to we get together and talk about our feelings and decide.
Right? Yeah. Poor choice of words. Poor choice of words.
Well, it's just the revelation.
It's
of what's actually
revealing.
going
Yeah,
on.
I know what I'm saying. Yeah, it's revealing. I know. It's just poor choice. I was hoping he'd use some type of combination between like emotions and logic and some other, something better. But yeah, damn, that was a linchpin.
There's a
Got 'em.
second layer to the atheist conundrum. The problem that they have is that if we were to take and grant them their decision-making skills and allow them to produce some sort of moral scheme or schematic for how we should live, when you compare it to what the scripture prescribes for living, but we learn statistically in the science of social statistics that the Christian perspective prescriptions are optimal. So they're better than theirs.
That's what Wilson moves to prove, right?
So you have a double-edged sword when you go into these conversations with atheists. They're just bankrupt morally. It's just an empty, vast bankruptcy. They have no arguments, period, none whatsoever when it comes to this topic. They have no objective standard morally.
Well, he did just say this is the second debate too, so there's lack of experience as well.
Well, and I'm telling you that
Before
anyone
the-
in this that holds to this position, regardless of how many debates they have, will have to conclude the same.
Fair enough.
Right. Like Andrew Wilson is going to take the methodology of pointing out that the Christian paradigm is going to produce better results for less crime, less domestic violence, higher income, higher education rate. Those statistics are available, whereas Jay Dyer might go in and go the presuppositional method, saying you don't even have a standard to build on. And Jill is pointing out those are both available in these types of argumentation. So you go either way and they're cooked.
Right, yeah.
That's a normative authority.
okay, right. I can see that I was wrong on that point. Absolutely.
Yeah.
That is
So
normative
my whole
authority,
point
right?
here isn't to beat you up about being wrong in a debate. I'm wrong in debates all the time, just not in this one. What
That's
I'm
how we
saying,
learn, right?
what I'm saying to you, what I'm saying to you.
What does that actually mean? So, for example, Christian societies, is that including is that based on people just of faith, or is that based on? Because I imagine there's again many as you were these things, right? And if that's the case, how many of those people had to step in the mud, so to speak? Are we counting in like that type of scenario into it? So like, I'm not saying like, does that mean within this Christian statistic that doesn't take away the criminals of of that? Like, how are those numbers considered?
Well, I don't
Essentially, I don't know.
I just have a broad view of those statistics. You'd have to get into that data in order to get those answers. It was a fair
Dig
question.
in. All right. Yeah, because I mean, I think if they don't include like felons like myself who are Christians into that type of spectrum, that's kind of cutting us short because of our crimes, right? It would be counterintuitive,
You're
right?
talking
And
about crime rates?
kind of, yeah,
Oh.
like if Christians, young, whatever believers, I guess you can make arguments of whether or not they're like heretical Christians and whatnot, but I guess I kind of trying to get into the meat of it. Like, what is the standard? You're right. If you don't have that on you, then I'll have to look that up.
Well, I wouldn't use crime
myself.
rates for, specifically. I wouldn't use crime rates because both moral paradigms.
Right. I shouldn't make it sound like that was the only standard. Sorry about that.
Right. You have to find something they say is good, we say is bad, and then look at the social sciences to determine, hey, these are the people over here are not having sex before they're married. These people over here say it's okay to do that. Then let's take a look at what the results are as far as their lives are concerned.
Well, but yeah, does that actually matter within like its principle? Maybe it does. Yeah.
Well, STD rates, those types of things. It has to be a principle.
Oh no. Okay. So like, again, you're talking about a legal term marriage, and then you have Christians like myself, me and my wife, who have been together, who are not married, have 4 kids. Right. I was an atheist when I was with my my wife. We're not married, but I call her my wife. I'm a Christian now.
Right.
So again, is that accounting those type of circumstances? And why would those be? Yeah.
No, what I'm saying is we're looking at the principle itself. So if I decide to behave like an atheist and start having sex out of wedlock, which is the atheists are telling me that there's nothing wrong with that, right? They're saying that
so essentially cheating on the one your significant other, essentially, right? Going outside of that agreement, because it's not a marriage, but it's still like a mutual respect, as some people would say.
Let's take it this way. You have two 14-year-olds, right? And one is being encouraged to go out there and experiment, and the other is being encouraged to not to save himself until he's married. Okay, then that one can actually disobey, and hey, look, and the grass is greener on the other side. So both could actually commit the same fornication, but then the same results should be, typically that person would have a harder time. So it's not okay. Christians get married at this percentage, and non-Christians get married at this percentage or have this amount of STDs. It's whoever practices this results in that, and then whoever practices that results in this. So it's the practice, it's the behavior itself. It's not whether or not you identify as a Christian.
So essentially, you're saying it's the traditional family values that are upholding the
Atheists can practice traditional family values and get the same benefits. So they're not, God doesn't withhold those benefits from them because they're atheists and say, oh no, well, you're not going to have.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like when this comes up, the argument gets to this point with atheists that say, well, since lying and honesty aren't necessarily tenets of your atheist position, wouldn't it be better if you just pretended that God existed and you followed these ideas because the outcome socially seems to be better for families? It's where some of these arguments lead.
Right. And then when the Christian lies constantly, they suffer the same way an atheist when they lie constantly. So it's the ethic or the principle that we're comparing. It's atheist principles, what they say is good. They say it's good for a man to transition to a woman if that's the way he feels. We say that's bad. Well, let's look at the statistics. Now, we don't have much because this phenomenon of what this being this apparent good. That's all they have is apparent good. That's all they have. They don't have real good. They don't have a real good. They have what appears to be good. But we'll see in the 10 to 15 years when the results come out of those individuals who transitioned and the suicide rates are even higher and all of those things that they say would be good for them and good for society. We turn out that it's not good. It's actually worse. It's gotten worse. So that's what I mean. It has to be something where we are both opposed. We're both on the opposite ends of the spectrum on. So far so that you can't say, oh, no, we really were on your side when it comes to transgenderism. They can't squirm out of it because they were clearly on the left when it came to transgenderism. They said it was a good thing. It's a positive thing. And what you're doing and what you're telling them is bad. Okay, that's what I would use. I would use something like that, not something like murder, which both sides can easily,
Well, good and bad are always shapeable in the subjective position as well. So what's good today may not be tomorrow. So they always have that. And Andrew moves to point that out with harm in this very debate, that harm can be reshaped in the future. The other guy, Craig, tries to deny that at first, but he keeps pressing him on it until I don't even know if he gets it. I forget by the end, but the crowd seems to get it. So it's not only that they're arguing good and bad, they reshape the terms depending on the culture and the times too. So it's just a subjective nightmare as I see it.
Here, Craig, is just this. If you have to have a normative authority, people who get together who make prescriptions, right? What they're doing is they're using your framework. So in Christianity, we would do the same thing. We're going to use the framework of the Bible, the teachings of Jesus Christ, and then we're going to have a normative authority, an ecclesiastical structure, which helps interpret that framework so that we know what we should or shouldn't do. Now, this is the same exact thing you're doing. But the thing is I can use the framework, which is the Bible, to debunk the prescriptions that I've made against the manifesto. You can't do that with your manifesto. That's my point.
Right. Again, you're using the manifesto wrong.
Okay.
And I've explained why, and I do feel like we're just going round in circles.
No, this is actually important.
Right.
I would like to actually know how I'm using it wrong. Go ahead.
I'm trying to, because again, it's not a set of rules like the Bible, right? Like it's that's not set out the same way. It's not saying this is exactly what you need to do, right? It is something that we will get together as a collective and say, right, and this is how we think will make a better society. Mm-hmm. And if something in society happens and we need to adjust that, we can adapt as society evolves. But the overall point of it is to reduce harm and increase flourishing. And you can't do that if you're doing something that is causing unhappiness, causing unhealthiness, causing injury, and feelings of not being happy. That is against what the secular humanism.
So this makes sense.
Is,
so
right?
What you're saying, and I'm just going to steal man again to make sure I'm not getting it wrong. I don't want you to say I'm straw manning you. What you're saying is that this framework, which is Humanist 3, the manifesto, this is a framework which is not giving prescriptions, but rather it's a framework which is used by a collective body to give prescriptions, right?
I wouldn't say prescriptions, more...
What you ought to do?
No,
No.
What is better for helping society?
Well, should we do what's better?
It doesn't try to give rules. It doesn't try to say this is exactly what
how
you should do.
there's
It just says, if you
games
want
being
to have
played
a
there,
healthy-
not necessarily on purpose or consciously, but we're not trying to say should or ought. It's all implicit within the framework. If it's better, that's what you ought to do, but they want to try to stay away from oughts and shoulds. So it becomes a game they're playing. He's having to point it out. So you're saying better is what we shouldn't do? No, I'm not saying that. Okay, so better is what we should do. No, I'm not saying that. It's implicit though. It's there. So this becomes a matter of pointing out games and fallacies when you're in a position like Andrew Wilson. He's already won. He knows he's won coming into the debate. He's just working around like, what's this guy going to do? And how am I going to point out his logical fallacies and inconsistencies?
Well, it's only right if you have a majority.
Well, that would be an ad populum, right? And
I guess that's the only way they could get out of it, but they're really not, like you say. Yeah.
It's an ad populum or an appeal to authority. And then the question comes into play, well, don't you have to get the societies to agree, which would be through a democracy, that these people are going to be the ones to decide? And he's also saying we can reshape it too. So you can get a democracy decision to have these authorities decide things, and then they can redecide them at their whim. This is what you have in governments. That's why they have perpetual control. They give you the illusion of choice and democracy, and then they reshape things through language and different ways of wording and interpreting things. So the agenda that we see now is, well, there's no right or wrong on a biological level, with the whole what is a woman thing. Now we can't even understand what a woman is. If you can get the public to believe things like this, where you can reshape reality and get everyone confused in a way where there's no right, there's no wrong, there's no real, it's just evolving. And if you can get people to think that everything's always evolving and you're actively shaping that evolution, well, then you can completely control a society.
I remember, maybe 20 years ago when the atheists used to argue that these other cultures that were doing things differently were not immoral. That because we have our country with our laws and our rules, and our collective society came together and made these laws, they also have the same prerogative to come together and make laws for their country. So they used to argue, well, that's good for them. Now they don't argue that anymore. I'm curious as to why, because that was really the only out, if you want to call it one.
I think that's what I was about maybe to point out. Like in this situation of what is better, not to ignore hierarchical. I can never say that word. Hierarchical standards. So, for example, is there a better way to fold laundry? And what are we defining as better? Is it better to fold laundry with your feet? And for that example, I use someone who doesn't have arms. Which way is better? If the person can fold laundry more efficient with their feet, should everyone then switch to folding laundry with their feet because that's more efficient and better? It's actually quicker to do with your feet instead of doing with your hands.
Can you click on Tommy's comment? I want to show you how he's right here with Craig. So Tommy's going to say grace alone is 100% more healing than moralism, legalism, right? And you say, Tommy, are you saying that we ought to follow grace? And he's going to say, no, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying it's more healing. Is more healing better? Well, yes, that's implied. But in order to stay away from moralism, he's going to move away from the ought and should claims. So he's playing the same game as Craig. Every day, day after day.
What are you talking about? That's cousin art.
Oh, right. And that's how you don't take exactly. That's how you don't take
Sorry.
responsibility for the claim. It was your cousin who hijacked your keyboard, right?
Cousin art. Maybe that was a reach, JJ. I was just trying to make a joke, but goddamn, that was vicious, bro.
You nailed it, man.
I mean, I was just making a joke. I didn't actually think that.
You just called out
making the
Tommy.
play.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
Call him out. I was just
you engaged in the
you-
call out effectively, and you didn't even mean to. Well done.
I don't think it's a call out. I think it's a joke, obviously, by say Tommy, which is why he put cousin Art to be.
No, it's a
joking.
psychological game he's playing. Like I just pointed it out to you. He's saying grace alone is more healing.
I understand.
Okay, I went through all of it, but you put the cherry on top. Then he goes to the point of saying, "Oh, cousin Art said that. It's not even my claim." This is a game he's playing with himself. I keep pointing it out because I'm wondering if he's doing it knowingly or unknowingly. That's what I'm saying. This is what happens with the secularists and these strange theologists who abandon the ethical component of the worldview. They end up playing a psychological game with themselves where they're trying to move away from making ought and should claims, which is part of the human condition, which is part of argumentation. You can't escape this if you engage in arguments, and people continue to do so. That's why the ethical component or the ethical pillar of philosophy is so interesting.
maybe I should just outright Saint Tommy, were you joking? Do you make jokes with the cousin art things, right? Those are just simply jokes, those additives. Let me know. Get back with me. I'd rather ask you directly than rely
Oh,
on
there's one that makes bad
JJ
arguments,
stuff.
bad immoral arguments in the chat. Jay Passig. There's another one.
Yeah, don't worry about him so much. He's just. But Tommy, and then Tommy resorts to this when you explain it to him. It's word salad. He doesn't understand. He told me I was talking Chinese one time as I simply laid out these propositions to him. Anything to abandon the ethics of the pillar of ethics, right? And ethics is simply human behavior. You can't make arguments. You can't engage in discussions about your position without an ethical component. The universalist continually wants to do this. The atheist wants to do this subjectively, which always resorts to my feelings. The universalist falls in the same camp, but they try it through a different avenue.
The UFOs. They're out of this world.
No, they're identified, though.
For your society, then
So-
this is the way to do
So
it.
it's being interpreted, right?
By a collective, yes.
Okay, got it.
Right.
So if a collective of Christians interpret this to say, under one, here, that knowledge of the world is derived by observation, experiment, and rational analysis, if the prescription they come up with is the birth rate is low, therefore all women must be forcibly bred, why are they wrong?
Because they would have to show why birth rate is a bad thing for lower birth rate is a bad thing for humanity.
Why would they have to show that? There's nothing in the manifesto, the guiding stone from which they're making their prescriptions, that says that in any way contradicts with the framework itself.
Well, in what we would do in that case, again, as humanists, we would get together and we would say, is this going to cause harm? Then yes. Well, then we won't do that.
Yeah, I know. So what if they got together and said, actually, I think that this will lower harm?
What if God said lock people up?
Yeah, no, but what if they said...
Yeah, but what if God said it was okay?
Yeah,
to do?
what
Would
if
you do it?
he did? So anyway,
So would
the
you?
prescription-
Right. So let's ask because
You're
you've
just
moving
moving the
the
goalposts.
Yeah,
See,
yeah,
that's
that's fine.
not-
All you've done so far is
this
ask me
happens
questions
all the
about mine,
time
right? So I'm going to ask you
when
questions about
someone's
yours.
taught.
What if God said it was okay to lock women
What
up?
if in a contradiction? Let me move to your position. Let me move to your position. Let me move to your position. That's very common. Don't let them do that. And that's what Andrew's doing. Yep. Anyway, hold on. Anyway, let me get back to my point. That's all he's doing. He's trying to redirect his position to get out of his problem.
Bogarting, even though it's a bait, keep it one-sided. Because then you're not being accountable for explaining why yours is best. You're just
Right.
bogarting
No, he's trying to
the
move
whole-
away from the problem in his position, dude. What about you? What about you? It becomes a tu quo quo if you could keep going down that direction. Even if he says you're doing it too, and then we're both doing it, what has he done?
I'm not saying it's not too quick. I'm just saying if the whole purpose of what you said in debate is not to reveal your position and how
No,
it's
that's not the
best
purpose.
at any point. That's what I'm saying. And you're just gonna have them filibuster about their position. Then how are you demonstrating yours is best by again just
He's
in their
assuming
internal
he's
critique.
assuming a position by making the claims against Craig already, which he said he's coming from a Christian framework, which is decided by the ecclesia, which would be the authority to make normative decisions. He's already established that. Craig is caught in a problem here, so he's moving over. Well, what if God did this? What if God did this as a response to the problem he's in? You can't
Oh,
say
God
that.
did
fair
it
enough.
too. God did it. No, it's not what aboutism. It's what about Godism, I call it. What about Godism? God did it. Look, God had slavery. Look, God had...
Yeah, rewind it if you need to, Talk. He obviously did
No,
that.
you're right. Yeah, no, yeah, you're right.
God did it
Key
too.
feature I forgot.
And
And then
then
when you show him
say
that
Christianity is a complete lie, all of it's nonsense.
Yeah, you're
all of it's
right.
BS.
No, he did
And-
earlier. You're right. He went down that path. He explained it. And now you're right. If he stated, then he doesn't need to repeat it.
Yeah.
He's already demonstrated it then because he goes by the yeah.
Talking about the effects
So
of
you're
society.
trying to get rid. Yeah, okay. So if how would Christianity deal with this then? If we said, okay, it's a lower birth rate, let's lock people up and experiment on them to make higher birth rates. What would Christianity say about
Our
that?
ecclesiastical authority would say you're not allowed to do that.
Which one?
Well, in fact,
And
I
he still
think it's,
entertained him anyway. You know, I mean, that's, I guess if you want to say he's being charitable, he did entertain him moving over to his position.
Yeah, you saw him get a little frustrated, like, oh God, here we go.
Yeah.
What
so
about
he said,
God? God over here. You don't even know how to read the Bible. What are you what are you talking about what God did?
He's
After
read
things you say
Deuteronomy.
God did, he didn't do or say. So now you're basically going down this rabbit hole of what God did do and what God did say in the Bible, and that's what he's doing. It's a red herring. He's trying to distract.
Yeah.
I think Craig could have gotten Andrew at least on potentially like the same way the manifesto is composed of the people in a selected group. He could go on with that's simply what the ecclesia is, also a selected group of people with
Yes.
positions of power.
Right. That would be that would be a good avenue for him to go down. I would agree.
Positions of power, I must add, because Jay Pasick is crying in the chat, but positions of power of those who have went to school, who had enough money to go to school, and just basically say what the professor told them to say on a piece of paper. I'm working on my second degree, so I would know that's the case. If you want an A, say exactly what the professor told you to say. Just put it on paper.
Good
There you
morning,
go.
St. Tommy.
There you go. Now you're a
It's good to see you.
scholar. Now it's no longer an appeal to authority because I'm qualified to make a reliable claim. That's Jay Pasick's position, I'm assuming.
Well,
Since he's not man enough to click on a link and come in and explain himself, he's trying to argue through chat, through the side chat. But he knows if he comes in here, he'll get crushed on several points that he's made in side chats and comment sections.
Hey, we had a brave side chatter episode last night, Jill. Did you notice?
Oh, I saw that. I saw that. Yeah, the chat rats were
I
out.
think
in
It was
numbers.
Well, I
music.
think-
It was music and debates. No entries. Naturally.
I think the claim that Jay could make with, like, as I was pointing out, the position of authority is that the council is relying on like exactly what he says, so because the authority, God said so, without and other people's, without seeing, without believing, right? So since God has ascended into heaven and they're left in the position of authority, that can still be abused because it is a position of power, even though it's by the ecclesia. Like that would be, I think, Craig's best out, because it's not that at that point the atheist could argue it's not that God didn't give the orders, but the position of power became corrupt. It might be a little bit hinging on arguments of silence, though. And they could say that, like, they could probably back that up with, like, maybe saying corruption shows and bleeds through the Crusades or something like that. I'm just trying to throw, like, a strong man out there, a steel man. For poor Craig. I'm just saying, I think that'd be a good, like, thing to actually ask. That's kind of a hard bend to say, like, the Crusades and stuff are caused by corruption. But then again, that kind of gives it its own little answers because it was corruption. So at that point, they linchpinned themselves by taking on the objective of God and saying the authority came from God, that they would still be God. Unless all of it's just corrupt and there is no God, and then that's it. That's all they can say. It's all just corruption. There wasn't any ever truth, essentially. Fairy tale, right?
Here's how I would define Christian, if you want to make it easy. People who believe in the Nicene Creed, people who accept the Nicene Creed. All people who accept the Nicene Creed would now fit under the category of Christians. All of them would have the same moral framework,
I'll be right back for a couple of seconds and get some water.
which would say that this
And
is
which
immoral.
moral framework specifically, cite me the specific thing that says you can't lock women up and experiment on them to stop a lower birth rate.
You mean the Ten Commandments?
Yeah, where is that?
You want me to pull up the Ten Commandments for you?
Then go to the other 260 rules as well.
You mean Noahide laws?
Well, they're part of Christianity, right?
No, not Noahide laws.
That's what some Christians would disagree with.
Not the ones who believe in the Nicene Creed.
Well, okay, so you are saying that Christians that don't believe in the Nicene Creed aren't Christians.
Yes.
Well, okay, now
yes.
they think they're Christians.
That's what I'm saying.
But
yes.
here's the thing: they think they're Christians.
Well, right now I think I'm a humanist. Am I?
Do you think that?
Am I a humanist right now, Craig? Because I made humanist prescriptions.
Do you think you're a humanist?
Yes.
Okay, then you can be. No, but there's nothing.
No.
You can be a Christian. You can be a Christian and be a humanist. There's nothing wrong with that. You can be a Christian and be a humanist.
Okay.
Right.
Then my prescriptions are humanist prescriptions.
But if you could be a humanist, a Christian, and be a humanist, because humanism lets you have freedom of religion. But what you're saying right now is, I'm deciding what Christian is, but you don't get to decide what Christianity is, because other Christians would disagree with you. And to be clear, you are here to defend all of Christianity, not just.
No, I'm not here to defend Christianity at all. I'm here to defend the effects of it on society.
Yeah, what you're trying to do is why Christianity is better for society.
Yeah.
So that means you have to go for all.
Would it matter?
Hold on, let me finish my point,
go ahead.
please.
Go
That
ahead.
means that you have to defend all of Christianity, not just the Christianity that you think is Christianity. Because there's a lot of Christians that disagree with your definition of Christianity. But that doesn't matter. As a Christian, you still you are here to defend.
Does he have to defend all of atheism? All of those who proclaimed to be atheists in over the past 300-400 years, 600 years, 1,000 years. I mean, what is this guy? He's just getting desperate at this point. Getting desperate.
I mean, yeah, I mean, if Andrew wanted to, he can go to the Bible and say that there must be factions among you. It even says it in the Bible. There must be factions so that the truth can be bleed out. And that's essentially it. Like, I forget where it says. I'll have to pull up the verse.
Yeah, so we can identify the fake converts too.
And every version of Christianity. That includes the Christianity of Ethiopia that hold the ancient texts that you don't believe in, because they still call themselves Christians.
They're still better for society than humanists. Like, what are you talking? All I'm here to do is to defend,
Right.
whether or
So,
not.
right.
Craig, my turn, Craig.
Okay. Sorry.
All I'm here to do is to defend the effects on society of Christianity versus humanism.
Right, so let's look
arguing.
at that.
Stop. I'm arguing that there is no real effect from humanism on society because it has this intrinsic problem. The problem
Doing
is
no harm.
No,
I
it's not.
went through it in my
Craig,
intro, right?
Craig, chill
But let's
out.
look at
Craig,
Christianity.
chill out, Craig.
Andrew, right?
I
you
just
all
let you
you've
talk,
done,
Craig.
Andrew, all you've done so far
Craig,
is
chill
attack.
out, Craig.
He is
Second, hold
very
on.
interruptive.
Yeah, thank you.
Interruptory.
So what I'm saying to you, Craig, is that because you suffer from this.
What's the word? Interrupty. Definitely
Interruptible.
is. He's floundering. He's flustering here.
Yeah, that
He's
must be
realizing he's not in a
exhilarating.
good place. You don't do your first or second debate with Andrew Wilson. He's realized that at this point.
I found the verse that I was looking for. The Lord suffered, but in the following instructions I do not command you, because when you come together, it is not for the better, but for the worse. For in the first place, when you come together as a church, I hear that there are divisions among you, and I believe it in part, for there must be factions among you in order for that those who are genuine among you may be recognized. When you come
Amen.
together, it is not the Lord's supper that you eat. For in eating, each one goes ahead with his own meal. One goes hungry, another gets drunk. What? Do you not have houses to eat and drink in? Or do you despise the church of God to humiliate those who have nothing? What shall I say to you? I shall command you in this. No, I will not. See, even Paul's giving the whole thing about drinking. You guys are giving Math Pig some shit, man, man. Lord rebuke you.
Yeah, I think there needs to be a distinction that, drinking wine and drinking itself is not the problem. It's drunkenness, right?
As being a drunkard. I don't think Math Pig's a drunkard. I would call Wildheart the drunkard level. I would say when I was binge drinking, I was a drunkard, right? Yeah, I'd say when I was doing that, and I was drinking. That's what I'm saying. The distinction between Wild is I was drinking every day. I was coming home every day and getting drunk. At least he fucking did his whole work schedule, right?
I had a conversation with what's that guy's name? The oh my goodness, I can't remember his name, but I asked the question: is there such thing as a good drunk? Oh, what's that guy's name? I'll find the video. I'll find the video, and he had a hard time dealing with the fact that because he gets drunk all the time, he says. And I said, "Is that a good thing?" And he couldn't. Well, it's neither good nor bad. It's neutral.
Oh,
Like,
neutral.
what?
He's stumped on is it a good thing, huh? All right.
so, so I really don't care what you consider to be good. You know, when you answer like that, when it comes to something that's clearly not, but that tends to lend me or have me lean towards the idea that you're just making it up as you go. You're just going based off of feelings. You know, and usually people, when if they do something, if they practice something, then they'll sort of make an excuse for it. You know, they'll sort of say, "Oh well, you know, it's not bad, but yeah." But if there's somebody else is doing something that they don't do, oh, that's horrible. How could you do that? You know, that's that's usually what you get. You know,
St. Tommy shares, there is a way that seems right to a man, but its end is the way of death.
Right.
Right. That's a good, powerful statement. So again, that goes into what I'm facing. I thought I was trying to do the right thing, but I was doing all the wrong things.
Oh, Pine Creek.
Oh, hold
That's
up.
what it
I
was.
gotta
Pine
fix
Creek.
this. Give me a second.
Oh, Pine Creek. So
it was Pine Creek.
he wants to argue with the Christian presuppositionalist about transcendental categories as a physicalist who denies metaphysics and borrow a transcendental argument. I find that funny.
Right.
Used to assume metaphysics from a physicalist position. Yeah, that talk about a grant, right? Granting yourself.
I'm looking for the video of your framework, right? Has to be interpreted by your authority, which is the same exact criticism you're levying against Christianity, by the way. You say it's logically impossible for the definition of harm to change because collectively we're just not going to change it.
Well, no, I said it's impossible. I said it's impossible to change to your definition of harm.
Give me 10 seconds.
Well, if you straw man me, I need to just let you know that that's not what I said.
Okay, calm down. You get a chance.
So I didn't say that.
Okay,
so
you get a chance, Craig. Calm down.
Give you a chance to wrap up, Andrew, and then we'll kick it back to Craig.
Yeah. So anyway, the point here is that when I look at society, I don't see any effects from humanism. I see a lot of effects from Christianity, and a lot of them are really positive. Your humanist effects don't even exist because all you're saying is this: we use this like manifesto, this loose document of ideas that anybody, including a Christian humanist, can come up with the prescription that we're.
It's weird because in most like weird places, why do they have to emphasize God or higher power? Right? It's either one or the other in some instances.
What are you talking about?
And like in mental health or like what they call Alcoholics Anonymous. I've never been. I'm just saying in those type of groups, activities.
Masonry, Freemasonry.
Maybe, yeah. There's usually called to a higher power, and or masonry is more like never mind. But yeah, I guess so. I don't know if that necessarily fits.
You have to believe in a higher power to be a Freemason. You can't be atheist. I'm just associating another group that does. It doesn't matter. It's fine. I'm here. I hear you.
Yeah. But there's something to the human condition, even in that healing aspect, to something above you.
Appealing to something outside yourself, a standard outside your subjective feelings. Yes, absolutely.
That's what I'm saying. Like it's really odd. Like some people will, oh, that's God. It's something else for me. It's my spirit animal. My spirit animal. About to dig on spirit animals.
We're going to lock women up and forcibly breed them, and you can't actually use your framework to tell them why that's wrong. You have to appeal to something outside of it. In this case, I don't know, loose libertarian like I don't know what principles you're even adhering to outside of it that make you a humanist now.
Let's kick it back to Craig.
So individual autonomy prioritizes human welfare. There is nothing about human welfare that says locking women up and experimenting on them is good.
There's nothing that doesn't.
Well, there is, because it's human. It's that is against ethics and justice. It's not.
Where? Show me where it says that.
Yeah, I got an idea
Hey,
here.
guys.
When I watched this, I concluded that what Craig is ultimately saying is you can make the argument that the human existence and human freedom is harmful because freedom leads to all the problems that we have. People were free. They autonomously, and they committed crimes because they were free. So ultimately, secular humanism, Andrew could make this argument, we should lock everybody up because human freedom can be harmful. That's the conclusion I got from.
Oh
this
yeah,
argument.
that's a good one.
Humans
Well,
bad.
technically, we are locked up in a system called the government.
Right.
Dun dun dun. Oh no, I'm
White
gonna be
human
taken
more
out.
bad than black human.
Wait,
Of
white.
course. One's less
Black-
scary.
Black human commit crime because white human bad. You gotta wonder if there was like an ancient civilization, alien civilization, just watching what's going on. That's probably would be in their news clippings, that how we are acting on this planet like total idiots when it comes to morality. Humans are fickle. We're not even designed to produce morality or
It's a
ethics.
weird,
It's God's
our
job.
planet means dirt, right? Dirt. It's true, but also like dirt. Anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and take off. My little one is up, and I'm gonna go hang out with him. So I'm sorry. I like to hang out with him.
Thank you for your
I'm not sorry, I'm just saying.
hospitality. Thank
Are we
you.
gonna go invade Ace's place?
Yeah, go over there and
I'll
see
see
if
you
we can
guys.
get in.
Let me try to
care.
get in first, 'cause